Okay, here comes is January 1st. This is when the new minimum wage rules have came out and they start effect, meaning that everybody that is overtime exempt is going to be getting a pay bump from $35,000 a year to $58,656 a year. What does that mean for you and do you qualify? Follow this video if you want to check it out. And if you want to know what those pays and profits will mean for you or your company, here they go. Okay, let's break this down. And we're going to make this simple. Um, this is what a minimum wage violation looks like. Um, Especially if you don't know how to actually price it out. Just remember, a minimum wage violation is paying below what the actual minimum wage is. So, for instance, flat rate is going to be if you provide only enough work that equals less than the 15,080 cents for flat rate workers, and the same thing for your delivery drivers or drive-by miles. This is what we call falling to piece rate. Piece rate. Like I said again, for hourly workers, they have to be paid under 15,000. Salary workers now they would have to be paid under 58,656 dollars for the year, which is $28.20. They have to get paid straight time. So when they work over 40 hours now, they have to be paid that 28.20 for you not to go on minimum wage violation. So this is one of those things where it comes down to how you are wording your contract with your employees on how much work you're providing them. If you aren't providing them enough work with these new rulings and not providing overtime and a beneficiary rate to compensate for the overtime when they're working overtime over certain hours. And like I said, you can find these rules in the Fair Labor Act rules. So you need to make sure you are actually following and going to your DOL websites, looking up these Fair Labor rules. This is going to be on your subsection for max 207 for maximum hours work. Um, it clearly defines the regular rates, defined rates. This is where you're going to find that information. Now, remember, you can go to dol.gov and you can find these rules and regulations order for your Fair Labor Act. But you can actually make a very good profit off of these. Let's put it at where we are actually charging the right amounts. So our average rate for the United States for truck drivers driving is 60 miles every hour. Our minimum flat rate violation would be 11 hours provided at $25 an hour. And like I said, these are minimum wage violations. Now let's look at our profit now right with the right numbers put in there for to get us out of violations. We're profiting 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 anywhere from $107,000 to $163,000. Now, this is all based off of production based math. This is not using retail math. Reason I'm not using retail math because retail math is kind of going out the door. Companies like Amazon all use production math. A lot of companies are switching to it. Even retail stores are using production math. This is just where you are calculating. This is where you are going to be calculating how you are charging out the work per job, how much product you are moving, everything else. Now we're going to use now what we're using in this figure is from what I stated from our real world situations of how we're posting stuff. Let's look at the basic numbers. we're using a 25, like I said, $25 an hour pay rate, $28.20 for our salary workers, and a 42-cent drive by the mile for our delivery drivers. I'll blow that up a little bit for you so you can see it a little bit better. These are our numbers we are running. These are our hours worked, build hours, and flat rate hours. Now, everyone has a different way of doing this. This spreadsheet is actually written on based off of wage labor laws, um, production math, my own personal experiences of working for multiple companies over 20 years, different pay rates, and we're just going to use a basic, like I said, we're using basic work order. We are using the example for the truck with getting an engine replaced on it. We have a high cost of 1,500 product costs. We're going to do a profit margin markup at 35%, not to be mistaken with a product markup. Product markup and product margin markups are two different things. If you use the wrong formula, you will get the wrong result. For product markups, you need to don't you're not timesing it times the percentage or decimal point, whatever. For product margin markups, you're using a margin formula for it, which is different, which is a whole entire different formula. Now, again, we're doing margin on our product markup for our low cost items. We're marking them up 67% on product margin. If you did a product markup to get that same markup for that dollar, you would be having to times it times 200%. But if you use the right formula, 67%, it'll work correctly. You won't see a different. You might only see a little differences if you have a smaller product markup or margin formulas. If you're doing a comparison at 10%, but as you get higher into the percentage tiles in the 67% range, the mathematical problem doesn't work correctly if you're using a product markup instead of product margin. Now, just a little short thing on that. So again, we're using a labor rate of $120 per labor hour that we're charging out. We're going to pay our employee rates. Oops, employee rates at $25. We're going to bill 11 hours per hour. Our product cost of 300. Sales tax 725. At end with a grand total of $4,865. We're going to get us a product margin of 54% on the whole entire job. Now, this sheet is based off of doing this job one time, meaning if we're doing this for 11 hours, we have to repeat this job 3.5 times a week, a minimum at 3.64 to get our 40 hours. This sheet is linked into our other sheet, which is going to give us our correct numbers for billing. Now, where the minimum wage violation is going to come in hand is if we don't charge enough for it. If we don't repeat that job over and over. So say we only do that job once a week, and that's all the work we provide, that one flat rate mechanic. It's 11 hours. That's going to be give us our $15,000 and give us that bombshell of a disappointment of time. Now, this also affects if we are paying hourly on that job and salary on that job. Now, again, you can classify with the new ruling, and we're going to bring that ruling up here. Now, I need everybody to pay attention to where it says the definition for our employees. We're going to scroll down here. And like I said, there are exemptions, but if you're not correctly paying your employees for overtime and you're classifying them as an overtime exempt employee, you may have to go with the $53,000 a year and have to pay them salary, or you're going to get a minimum wage violation and get fined. We're looking for the terms professional, and we're looking for learned professional. If you're not paying, again, if you're not paying overtime, you have to go to the higher rate. But in the same situation, if you're not charging the times out, you're going to have the same situations. Let's bill out the 40 hours. Now we see how that corrects our profits and gets our profits back up. This is one of the really important deals when dealing with billing and skill trades and running any kind of business. If you're not billing or posting your POs or billing out everything, collecting money, this is one of the main reasons why companies close up. This is one reason why like Yellow closed up. Now, if we pay overtime, and overtime is not a killer when you come to this. Now, again, in this sheet, we do have pricing in for employee insurance, what it costs the company, different expenses. Our delivery drivers do have the expense of a truck and fuel costs tied into the calculations. So when we change those miles per hour, that does change our fuel rate and our fuel costs and everything. With our flat, like I said, with our flat rates, you're going to see this in the profit size if we don't charge out the products. And like I said, I got that tied in for if you're going to pay off in a position where you have piecemeal work. If you're going to pay the employees by flat rate, hourly, or salary um, at these rates, what it will do to you if you don't charge the right amounts. So again, let's put a situation where we are requiring everybody to work 50 hours a week and like I said, this is with overtime and everything. And we're going to require our flat rate, and we're going to bill out 50 hours flat rate. We can increase our product to almost clear 230,000 in product and anywhere from $450,000 total. But straight labor, if you look at our straight laborers, and those are the costs on the bottom four. For straight labor, the pure profit, we're going to be making anywhere from 210 to 152 at $50 an hour. Employee salaries are going to be anywhere from 71 to 72,000. Our wages are going to stay around there. Now, if you do notice, when we went to 50 hours, since we are paying straight time, and this is where that ruling is going to come into effect, you have to know what your hourly rate is at $28.20. Since they're working 50 hours, now they got to be paid $73,320. That's how this works. That's how it's always worked. This is not a big change of how the policy works. It's about if you actually read the laws and learned how to wage and standards, because all the high internal wages are just pretty much mean making straight time. We'll do another now. There is a certain point where you have to monitor this. So we'll keep playing with numbers, and we'll just do a couple of increases real quick. We're gonna go to 80 hours, and this is where we would get into a salary minimum wage violation if you are not billing it. This $3 an hour is if you're using a wrong calculation for it, and you're saying that the contract amount that you have contract out with somebody is enough to pay them for 80 hours at straight time, but wouldn't be. Um, Again, a little bit more. I need to relook at that calculation anyway to make sure it's working properly. But if we require them to work 80 hours, like, yeah, we're almost at $718,000 in gross profit, anywhere from $350,000 to $289,000 in profit with our other pay wages and stuff for dealers. And like I said, this is as long as you have the work. Now, meaning if you don't have the work, this is when you need to consider doing layoffs and laying people off, for you can manage your work to how many employees you have to generate the best profit. Because, like I said, in these examples where we have a minimum wage violation, this is where a company has hired too many people and not letting nobody go. So again, like if we go back to our 40 hours a week and we go back to our 40 build out, 40 bill hours, again, that's our basic profit. But if we don't have enough work and we're only providing, like again said, 17 hours for our drivers and 11 hours for our flat rates, and this is all the work we have, and we're still using the same systems as pay by the mile, flat rate, which is piecemeal, and straight hourly and straight salary. This is when we're going to start losing profits. This is one of the reasons why, like, companies like Yellow went out of business. This is where you get where the unions have renegotiated different contracts, and they have came up like high figures, like you hear like UPS has figures of $100,000 per employee. That's going to be including these benefits of health insurance, different things in there. Now, one thing you have to be um, mindful of when you are not providing enough work, you are providing the means for people to qualify for poverty. So, our poverty for, let's find it. A poverty level changes for how many dependents you have. That $16 an hour right here in our poverty line, that's for 5 people. If we change that with the rulings, we do it for one person, it's $7.01. So if somebody has 2 kids, with the poverty standards that we have, so that means 3 people, that's $11.95. So I want you to be aware of this for one particular reason. If you have a worker that doesn't seem like they want to actually work and only want to do a certain amount of work, they might be only want to do a certain amount of work because now you have qualified them for poverty level, meaning now they are entitled to different benefits. Now, I'm in Ohio now, depending on income levels and stuff. Um, these are our income levels for starting to qualify for different poverty program, different government assistance programs. For 3 people to be around $20 maximum, $42,000 of income that can come into the household. Then they'll start getting government assistance for housing, foods. There's different programs, and they use different percentiles. Some of them at 120%, 130% poverty levels. These are the incomes. These are the maximum amount of money they can make and still be on these programs like the SNAPs benefits and everything else. Um, and like I said, if you are realizing that your employees are starting to become lazy, might be a time it might be a better effect to actually lay them off, because they're not going to work too much harder, because these poverty standards go from month to month, so they cannot take any more work on. If you're not providing enough work, then they're going to get signed to these programs, and you're going to mess up their benefits. Um, Now, one company that is been suffering from these are a lot of the dollar stores because they try to run these low pay rates. So most of their employees are on these poverty levels, and they don't actually make enough money to get off. They don't make enough money to get off of them and um, get off of these programs. Just want you to be something aware of this, and this is how this is going to affect this. So again, these are real world numbers, and this is how this is going to affect you come January 1st. Oh yeah, last thing, if you want to have a question about different minimum wages for your area or your country, by means go by your state. This is the most updated list I have on my spreadsheet for the different minimum wages around the country. Um, you can go on your different websites and find these out, your state websites, and find out what is your state's minimum wage. One of the highest ones is in DC, but a lot of states still use these federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. And like I said, the minimum wage is just a standard of how much work has to be provided, not the wage. So it means different for a piecemeal worker than it does a hourly worker. And those are the two standards when we get in terms of blue collar and white collar. Now, if this video was helpful to you, please just drop a like and catch you on the flip side.